little surprised to see the splash there for those cards. Renounce the Guild is a card I haven't really seen a lot of in a little while here. It's going to start off with the Thoughtseize here for Kory, so we'll see exactly what the hand is. You've got a Nykthos, you've got, looks like a couple black-white lands. Oh, look at Jacob, ever the nice gentleman spreading it across for us. Ultimate price, Thoughtseize for Dong as well, Gray Merchant, and then just lands. So if you're Kory in this spot, even though we don't know Jacob's hand, what are you inclined to take in this situation?
I would guess either most likely Thoughtseize with ultimate price being a distant second would be my guess.
Okay.
Because, Jacob has something like, he's taking the Thoughtseize here. He has something like Underworld Connections. He can take the Thoughtseize, allow his opponent to draw some removal spells, and just ride Underworld Connections to victory. Even if he has Pack Rat, he can still set up a turn 5 Pack Rat and activate, which plays around ultimate price, but Thoughtseize would tag. I think that he would only take ultimate price there if his hand's something like double Pack Rat, where he's fine with a Thoughtseize, but the ultimate price specifically matters for whatever reason.
You see Kory's just going to play a second Swamp and pass the turn back here as long as he's going to draw Desecration Demon for the turn. Play another Temple of Silence, and he's going to scry, but I see some nice Swamps here on Jacob Kory's side. How do you feel about these Swamps? Give it to me honestly.
Overall, I'm not an enormous fan of foreign language cards.
Okay.
But I do like that Jacob makes the effort.
Okay. Nightveil Spectre here for Kory. Of course, Dong does have Ultimate Price in his hand, and Mono Black deck normally does play Doomblade as well. So Nightveil Spectre, a great card in the mirror match. Here, a Temple of Deceit, so a third Scry here for Dong. Well, it looks like he's going to take a hit. Nightveil Spectre is a huge card in the mirror match.
Yeah. It's very close to Howling Mine for you, just you.
So there's 2 damage. Dong going to move down to 18. Trigger. There's a Swamp.
I'm surprised if Jacob plays this because it'll mess up how nice his board looks.
Well, maybe he just doesn't play the Swamp.
Yeah, you just don't.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh, brutal. Brutal.
4th land into play. I guess he wants to win. Let's see what he's going to follow up with here. He does have a Whip of Erebos. Looks like he's going to lead off with another Thoughtseize here. So let's see what Dong has drawn so far. He's got 2 Desecration Demons, that Gray Merchant that we know about, the Ultimate Price that we know about, the Nykthos that we know about, and a Swamp. So not the best of draws so far, even though he has scryed 3 times.
Well, I do actually kind of like the Desecrator Demons. Drawing the removal here is so bad, especially since we know that Jacob has Underworld Connections. That's not the type of game that Peicong can win. But randomly going beatdowns with Desecrator Demons, if Jacob doesn't have an answer for it, especially with Jacob having dealt so much damage to himself so far, could actually be a path.
Underworld Connections on not his Swamp. It will be Kory's final play for turn 4 as he does pass the turn back. Mutavault the draw step here for Dong. We do know that he can, of course, play the Desecration Demon that is in his hand, so he's going to play Mutavault, giving away what he did draw for the turn. There's your 6/6 and passing the turn back. Kory going to untap. He's going to draw his card. Finds an Ultimate Price of the draw step. Pretty timely there, as they can't take care of the Desecration Demon. And it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. So 6/6 going to bite the dust. We'll see if he wants to finish up his turn by attacking. That's exactly what he's going to do. Didn't know if he wanted to activate Connections or not yet.
He might find something off of this Nightveil Spectre that he wants to cast instead. So
and there's a Mutavault off the top. So he has not played a land yet, has Kory, but it looks like he's going to want to get out here with a Nykthos, which can actually provide a healthy amount of mana. Can provide 5 right now to put the Gray Merchant in play. The Gray Merchant would be for a drain for 7, so you can see the explosiveness of Nykthos in this deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is your activation of Nykthos. There is your Gray Merchant. A drain of 7 going to knock Dong down to 9. Kory going to go up to 23, and all of a sudden this game is getting out of reach really quickly for Peicong.
Yeah, the Mono Black Devotion deck is capable of going from control and sort of just biding my time, using removal spells, what have you, to lethal in very short order. It's very fast at turning the corner.
Gray Merchant from Dong's side is going to gain him 2 and drain Kory of 2, but you can definitely tell that Dong is on the back foot here as Kory's going to draw a card, and Kory hasn't even had to activate his Underworld Connections just yet either, and he's still doing just fine.
Yep. He's happy to just take advantage of his kind of aggressive advantage that he has right now. If the game slows down a little bit, then that's a nice backup plan to be able to fall back to.
Mutavault going to come into play off the Nightveil Spectre, so that'll be Kory's land drop for the turn. Did activate that Connections already as well. So we'll see what the thought play is going to be. Now, there's at least 1 Whip of Erebos in Kory's hand. Not sure if both copies are in his grip as well right now. He can make a lot of mana, though. That's what it looks like he's going to do. So there's a whip. And assuming that he did activate Nykthos, so that's going to be for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's got 3 mana floating. I'm not going to do anything with it. Just going to come into the red zone with the Gray Merchant and the Spectre. So it says, I'm going to gain 4 life. I'm going to do you some damage. I've got a Spectre trigger. What are you going to give me? It's going to be another Gray Merchant.
Not shabby.
Not
too
bad
shabby.
at all. You can see, I mean, you can see the power of Nightveil Spectre in the mirror match. It's absolutely crazy how good it is.
Yeah, all these black creatures are really difficult to touch with removal, and especially, obviously the mana bases overlap, and so Nightveil Spectre, every spell it finds is castable.
It's actually frightening, like, how good Spectre is, because, like, everything that it hits is good. You're happy with lands because, like, you're this mana-hungry deck because of Pack Rat and stuff like that, and connections. One of your lands is going to be taken away from connections. And then if it does hit a spell, every spell that it hits is just, like, crazy how good it is.
Yep.
Here's a Thoughtseize. Kory wants to say, I want to make sure the path is clear. Underworld Connection is going to take care of my Gray Merchant. Okay, that's fine.
I'm not even sure if this play actually might just kill him.
Yeah, it might end up getting him killed, yeah. You see an activation of Nykthos here, so Kory's going to get all the mana, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana, and so now the whip can actually be activated to bring back that Gray Merchant.
Yeah.
And with 9 mana floating, he's actually got enough mana to actually whip this back, cast the one that's underneath, and get the game over with, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So Jacob Kory's going to win game number 1 over Peicong Dong in the Mono Black Devotion Mirror. And as these players are going to check the bottom of the sleeves to make sure that they have each other's cards correct, one of the things that does happen with Nightveil Spectre, I'll let you start on Dong's sideboard here and see what he can do to change things.
He has some copies of Duress that he can bring in, and he has 2 copies of Dark Betrayal, and that is basically it.
So not a ton?
3 Duresses, 2 Crypt Incursions.
Okay. That's kind of a frown town.
Yeah, and he has to take out. He has 2 main deck Doomblades and 4 Lifebane zombies to begin with.
Yeah, those can go.
He already has 6 cards he absolutely has to take out before we even talk about contextual quality at all. So he's in I think, Jacob has a build of Mono Black Devotion. The more recent popular builds that is really devoted to trying to winning the mirror match. Peicong's moved away from that build. He's touching white. He has his Lifebane zombies main, trying to compete against a larger swath of decks, but the mirror match, Jacob's edge just feels enormous.
All right, I'm going to get a little bit crazy here. I know that he has Renounce the Gills in his sideboard, does Dong, and that card's obviously not great in the Mono Black Devotion Mirror, but Nightveil Spectre is 2 colors.
Yes.
And we just saw how good it was in that game. And I mean, if you don't think your matchup in the mirror is all that great, would you go Desperate Times, Desperate Measures?
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a good removal spell for that threat, and he has so much either dead or close to dead cards that the opportunity cost is very low.
Okay. All right, we'll take a look at Kory's sideboard here. He's got 3 copies of Farika's Cure, 4 Dark Betrayal, 3 Duress, 1 Pack Rat, 1 Ultimate Price, an Erebos, God of the Dead. Doesn't have any of those main deck. Actually, he has 1 main deck and 1 in his sideboard. Take that back, and then 2 copies of Ratchet Palm. So you can tell that of these players, Jacob Kory is ready for the Mono Black Devotion Mirror.
Yes.
4 Dark Betrayals. He's got 3 Pack Rats in his main deck, an additional 1 in his sideboard. Ultimate Price, I like in this matchup as well. Obviously, takes care of the Demon, takes care of Pack Rat. I think you want to bring another one of those, and you're not going to find any Doomblades throughout his 75 either. Farika's Cure, I'm not sure if that's a card that comes in from the sideboard, because like it can kill the first Pack Rat, but how many ways do you want to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think that if you have enough removal spells that catch it, that you don't want to play a card that is that low impact, because it's basically dead outside of the situations that involve Pack Rat. There's some situations with Mutavault maybe, but it's very narrow.
Do we like to rest in this matchup? When both players obviously have 4 Thoughtseizes, how many discard spells do you actually want to have after sideboard?
I think Duress is really important because after Pack Rat, I feel like Underworld Connections is the next most important card.
Okay. And then, of course, we have Erebos, which I feel is more for like against Esper than this particular matchup. I can certainly see where it's good in this matchup, but I mean, do you want to have access to 2 of those? It does shut off opposing Gray Merchants, the lifelink, but it doesn't shut off the fact that I'll be getting fireballed for in between 5 to 7 points of damage.
Again, every sort of slow, grindy, potentially high impact card feels powerful to me in this mirror match.
Okay.
It doesn't really feel like life totals are under pressure or the tempo of the game is really the thing that's going on. There's the sort of gut check with Pack Rat, like, can you answer this? If not, you probably lose.
Okay.
That's a phase. One person having an enormous Underworld Connections edge, that's the second phase. And then the third phase is, do you just have more high-impact cards than your opponent does?
Sure.
So everything with the potential to fulfill that role, I think you have to look at pretty strongly, even if it's not, like you said, Erebos is not really dedicated for the mirror match.
And then there's these 2 copies of Ratchet Bomb as well, where Ratchet Bomb, how it interacts with Pack Rat. The Pack Rats do have casting costs of 1 and a black, so they actually do cost 2, as do the tokens. So, do you want to board in Ratchet Bomb as like this nice hedge to Pack Rat? Like if things do get out of control, it's like, well, I do have an out if he's able to make another one of just bomb away for 2 and kill everything.
Usually when I'm playing mirror matches that involve a lot of the same, there's a lot of the same cards going on, they're permanents. I generally try to avoid playing cards, like Ratchet Bomb and Anger of the Gods, where you're kind of hoping your opponent overplays or you're somehow asymmetrical. I just like to have the most high-impact cards possible. I think that's usually a better way of approaching mirror matches.
All right, well, we'll see how Kory does end up boarding because, of the cards that I mentioned, a lot of those cards are easy to bring in. We're looking at a sideboard of, 4 Dark Betrayal, some number of Duresses. He has 3. We don't know how many he's going to bring in. Singleton, Pack Rat, Ultimate Price you can make an argument for. Erebos you can make an argument for. Those 2 Ratchet Bombs as well. We're talking about 12 cards here. Does he even have 12 cards to sideboard out? I have no idea. I don't think that Whip is great in the mirror match, but I can certainly see where it would be pretty good. And then the rest of these cards, I think Hero's Downfall is just an expensive removal spell, so you can board those out. But you want Thoughtseize, you want Connections. I'm not sure if you want Devour Flesh, but it is a hedge against opposing Nightveil Spectre, so you kind of want that. How badly do you want Ultimate Price? It doesn't kill Spectre, but it kills a lot of the other stuff. There's a lot of cards that you do want to board in this matchup. Do you have enough cards to actually board out? I
don't know. Is Desecrator Demon too much of a long ball to ever do anything in these kind of matchups?
I think it's unlikely that it's going to be very good. I wouldn't be surprised to see that one come out. It's tough to want to board out a 6/6 flyer for 4 mana. That is pretty difficult to deal with. But if you're Jacob Kory and you think your opponent has a similar setup as you do, then you've got access to a bunch of Dark Betrayals, and so you're using 1 mana to take care of a 4 mana spell. You're not really going to want it. That's not really going to line up well for you at the end of the day. So maybe you do want to board out the Desecration Demons and just kind of lower the curve a little bit, as it's not, obviously it's a good card, but it's not the most important card.
Yeah, I think in the mirror match, I haven't played a lot of the mirror, granted, but I feel like I would want to have Whip because Whip plus Grey Merchant feels like a good path to win an attrition game. Desecrator Demon feels like it's really optimistic that thing does anything, but if you are keeping Whip in your deck, that means that Demon's better because it doesn't really matter even if it gets killed the first time around. The threat of whipping it back is still pretty threatening.
Sure. By the way, we're going to see how both players do sideboard here as we're going to move on to game number 2. Players are going to take a look at their opening hands. Again, if you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Star City Games Open Series has made its way to Los Angeles. We are at the Stanley Kamikaze.
Yep.
I got it right this time. We'll be having fun all weekend long at Gauntlet Shrine to start here for Dong. Game 2 underway.
A lot of swamps in Jacob's opening hand. Looks like an Underworld Connections.
Oh, I'm going to start off with the Mutavault here. Maybe he wants to slide in an attack for 2 on turn 2.
He might throw in an attack if, looks like the coast was clear.
Coward. Such a coward. There's a Mutavault for Dong, so does not have triple black mana if he had a Nightveil Spectre, but additionally does not have an Underworld Connections either. There's Underworld Connections for Kory. No discard spell either for Dong, so it makes you wonder what kind of hand he kept.
It looks like there's a lot of removal spells, although it looks like he just drew a connection, so
yeah, right on time.
Keep his head above water a little bit, but
he's going to slide that onto the Godless Shrine. Interesting tapping there. He's going to play Pithing Needle. Oh, okay. I see what he's doing here. So now he's going to play Pithing Needle. He's going to name Swamp for that connections so that Kory can't draw with his, but Dong can draw with his off a Godless Shrine. We'll get confirmation on the Pithing Needle, but I believe that's what he likely named, is here's an Erebos. Yeah, and Swamp is confirmed.
Very fancy.
Yeah. So you see a draw here. There's a Swamp. Dong's going to say, I want to draw a card right now. I'll go down to 19 to do so. He's got to be wary of that Erebos, though, because Kory is only 2 devotion away from turning that thing active.
Yep. Dong with a variety of edicts in his hand, so he can handle it as long as, what Jacob doesn't add to the board is another creature to turn on the devotion.
I have to call a flavor judge on this one. I don't know why Erebos would eat himself.
It's a reasonable question.
Doesn't make very much sense to me. As here's a Pack Rat. You see a play that you mentioned during game 1, playing Pack Rat with 3 mana open to be able to make another Pack Rat.
Yeah, you want to be able to slog through the first removal spell.
Now this looks like a Devour Flesh in response to the Pack Rat, I believe, but I'm not positive.
Well, I don't know. Devour Flesh in response doesn't kill anything.
Okay, so Pack Rat happens. Maybe we're at the beginning of the attack step. So now Devour Flesh is going to try to kill the Pack Rat. And so Kory says, all right, I'll activate Pack Rat, discard a card. Oh, he has rat tokens. Wow.
Came prepared.
Look at that. It's impressive. Devour Flesh again. So now we're going to see some things get sacrificed here. And because this is in response, so Erebos is live right now because Pack Rat does have a casting cost. So he says, all right, I'm going to sacrifice the Pack Rat token to the Devour Flesh. I'll gain 2. I'll sacrifice actual Pack Rat to the Devour Flesh. I'll gain 1. So I'm going to gain 3 total life. Erebos still here. Kory basically saying this is the important card for me in this match.
Yep. And it does appear that Jacob has Whip in his hand as well. So he's kind of happy to play this kind of attrition game.
Sure.
Draw a bunch of cards with his Erebos and allow the Whip to recur creatures and just grind them out that way.
Liliana of the Dark Realms is going to come into play here for Dong. Just a 1-of. And we'll get the die on that so you can see how many counters on it. He's going to search out a swamp so he can continuously hit land drops and can work its way towards the ultimate sooner or later here. But I think it might be the -3 ability that ends up playing the biggest role in this matchup.
Yeah, for the time being, just the raw resources that he's generating between his Underworld connections and his Liliana will be valuable. There's the threat of going ultimate, although there aren't, I don't think, an enormous mana sink. There's no drain life type of effect that would facilitate that. But searching for a land every turn when there's nothing going on and having the threat of a removal spell on board as well are 2 very powerful things.
And you see after the Liliana comes into play and searches for a swamp, then you see the activation of the Underworld connections. Maybe a misordering of sequencing there. Maybe no reason to do it right away. It's not a spell he's going to be able to play in the first place. So maybe he'd rather leave up the bluff of having an ultimate price or something of that nature, and he can't do that now.
Yeah, if Jacob is able to turn on his Erebus this turn, then he gets a free shot at Liliana.
Yeah. So maybe that main phase activation is going to come back to hurt Dong. Additionally, there are discard spells to play around too. So
yep.
We'll see if that comes back to bite him here as Kory's going to play a Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. Now he's going to play a Whip of Erebos. Devotion is on, assuming everything goes in his favor, which it does. Erebos says, Liliana, get out of here, and I'll gain 5 life for doing that. And Kory's going to pass the turn back. So Dong's going to untap here. But Dong is the one with the active connections, not Kory. Kory does have the ability to activate Erebos, but losing 2 life to do so, that's pretty hefty.
No, it's no small cost, obviously, but he has a pretty substantial resource advantage right now between Whip and Erebos. There's a lot of things taxing Peicong's resources here, and he can't just remove and trade forever in the face of those cards.
Pithing Needle going to come down. That's going to name, well, we'll find out what it's going to name, because now here's a Devour Flesh. I was going to say it's going to name Erebos, but we're not sure what it's going to name. Okay. So what ends up happening here is Pithing Needle gets cast, Erebos activation in response, Devour Flesh in response to the Erebos activation. So Erebos gets sacrificed, then Kory draws a card, Devour Flesh resolves. Now Needle's going to, looks like it's going to name the Whip.
Yep.
So you see Needle playing a big role in the post-sideboard games. Now here comes Mutavault activation. That's going to get in for 2. And looks like we're just going to pass the turn back to Kory,
who's just drawn another copy of Erebos.
Not always there when you call, but always on time. So here is the God of the Dead. That means he brought in a second one. He has one in his main deck, one in the sideboard. And you can see it's playing a pretty big role in the sideboarded games. This is a card that must be answered if you're Dong.
And it's not always easy to answer because of, it's a black creature. It's not always a creature all the time.
And with how many Devour Flesh Dong has already cast this game, he's cast 3 Devour Flesh this game. I don't know if he has a 4th one in his deck list or not, but
he does.
I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. So he's basically on a 1-outer to get this thing off of the table. And it can take over the game all by itself. That's the power of the gods.
Yep. It's going to be impossible to stop inside of combat. He's going to gain a ton of life off of the Whip. And it's going to be able to keep Jacob's, total card count similar to Peicong's. He has to fight through these various Underworld connections.
Hero's Downfall, the draw off of that Underworld connection. So we'll see what Dong can find here for his turn. It looks like he's just going to pass the turn back. So you're going to get an activation of Erebos in the end step. Kory says, I'll go down to 29 and take a card.
He's definitely got life to play with.
That's true. The combo of Whip of Erebos and Erebos God of the Dead working very well. They do work well with each other. It looks like Kory has drawn another copy of Pack Rat. He also has a Thoughtseize in his hand too. He's going to start off with the busted discard spell.
Just see what's going on here. There's so many potential tricks his opponent can have. There's also the potential that his hand just doesn't really do anything. It's all removal spells, and in either case, having that information is really important.
You see a hand here of Swamp, Nykthos, a Dark Betrayal, a Hero's Downfall, and an Ultimate Price. So a very removal-heavy hand. A Nykthos that can't come into play because Dong already has one in play. So that's basically a dead card there. And then just another land. So for the extra cards that Dong's been drawing, Kory's kind of faded pretty well here.
Yeah, now he's, the way that I see this game likely to play out is Dong's going to be drawing his cards and doing whatever, but it's going to be really hard to prevent him from taking these random shots from Erebos. And he's risking getting killed. Especially with the Gray Merchant in hand.
Yeah, it only takes one hit of like 5 or 6 points of damage, and then the Gray Merchants just start becoming lethal fireballs.
Yep. This is why you can only go in so much on the removal spells, I feel like, in the mirror match, because if your opponent gets ahead of you on cards through something like Erebus or Underworld Connections, it's not helpful. And if your opponent just has some weird trump in play, like Whip, it's also not that helpful to have a bunch of removal spells. So you need to be judicious in how much is actually in your deck.
So an attack for 5 is going to put Dong down to 11. And now here is Pack Rat, again with the necessary mana up for activation. And again, Kory has left his Nykthos available, so he's basically threatening multiple activations at once.
Although, given the way that Dong's hand is structured, there is an argument for just letting this happen, right? I would much rather just use my mana, just pumping it all into Erebus, drawing cards and finding more action in the game, rather than trying to fight the Pack Rat fight. Although it looks like Peicong has just found his 4th copy of Devour Flesh.
Okay. Is there a Mutavault hanging out? There is a Mutavault hanging out. Okay. So let's see how this turn's going to go. Activate Mutavault. Attack you. Kory says, I'll take 2.
Go down to 30.
Yep, there is that 4th Devour Flesh. Also a Hero's Downfall in hand as well. So now here is your Devour Flesh. You see Kory reach for that Mutavault, and then he slows down a little bit. Because let's see if there's Nykthos activation. It's going to be for 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So there's a Nykthos activation, I believe, for 5 mana. He says, I'm going to draw a card, so down to 3 mana.
Yeah, I would much rather draw cards than try to fight this fight over this Devour Flesh when you know that Hero's Downfall is left over. No real point in trying to throw your Mutavault in there. Just draw your 3 cards. Gas back up.
Yep. So you see some life loss going to take place. His life pads go up and down and all around in this matchup. Another Gray Merchant here for Kory. He says, all right, I'm going to activate this, kill that. And I kind of like this play, too, here from Kory, because now the Mutavault's gone, the Erebos is going to die, but now the Gray Merchants can't be broken up.
Yeah, once you've drawn the 2nd Gray Merchant, I like just making your opponent tap out, because this is just going to kill them.
Yeah.
So.
And assuming that he does have enough mana to just kind of double Fireball with the Gray Merchants, right now, because Mutavault's back in. So Kory clears up the game set. He's going to untap. He's going to draw a card. Draws another Underworld Connections. He can make a decent amount of mana. Mutavault for the turn. He's got Dark Betrayal, double Gray Merchant, and and other connections in his hand. So 3 mana. And the connections on my Mutavault. So the Nykthos activation would be for 2, 4, 6. So I'm going to draw a card first. Draw another Mutavault. Activate Nykthos, again for 6 mana. And I got 1 black floating, but I'm going to drain you for 2, 4, 6, 8. Put you to 2, put myself up to 40.
Yep, puts a lot of pressure on Dong to find his own Gray Merchant, basically, this turn.
And that Underworld Connections that Dong has in play is pretty much not going to do it's not going to do very much anymore. He draws another Underworld Connections.
Pretty shabby.
Yep, going down to 1. 1 is not none. Draws a Gray Merchant.
But I'm pretty sure that Jacobs is just better here.
Yeah. He's behind in the Gray Merchant battle. So you might see him be able to cast another Connections and then being able to gain 6 and drain for 6. That's what he's going to do. He's going to put it on a tapped Swamp.
Probably on the
or is
needle,
he?
because of the pithing needle,
Yep.
he probably wants to put it on something
Yeah.
else.
I think he realized his mistake and tried to catch himself. And now here's the activation. Bunch of mana. There's a Gray Merchant. It's going to be for 6.
Yep.
So Donk's going to go up to 7. Kory's going to go down to 34. But I think what Jacob's going to do is say, I have another Gray Merchant, my friend.
And that is lethal.
So he's going to organize his hand. He's going to Dark Betrayal this one. Just kind of go through some steps here. Activate Mutavault, attack you. Put you down to 3.
And then,
I feel like it's Fireball time. What do you
yeah,
think?
well, it'll kill him, so I'm down.
Oh, so you think it should be Fireball time? All right, Fireball time, Gray Merchant, and that is going to do it. So Jacob Kory does defeat Peicong Dong in the mono black Devotion Mirror, 2-0, and this is really just a story here of one player who was very ready for the mono black mirror versus one who hasn't got as inbred in his deck building, and you can see the difference between the decks when one player has a bunch of stuff for the mirror and one doesn't.
Yeah, Jacob's deck was so much leaner and more efficient in the post-board games.
Yeah.
It's so easy for him to win that matchup,
I mean,
feel
he's
like.
got so many cards to bring in. He could actually sideboard up to like a 70-card deck, and I think he'd be a favorite.